Hey, what's up, good people? Happy Wednesday to you. Isn't it a beautiful day in Zamunda? What's going on, everybody? This is SJG along with K-Ferg. You're watching the D2 HBCU show. And look, man, it is the back end of October. Teams are fighting for position in the CIAA and SIAC, as well as fighting for position in the playoffs. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, of course, I've done enough talking without checking in on my guy, K-Ferg. Chris, how are you doing today, man? You feeling well?
Doing all right. Happy to be here, as always. Happy to put on a show for the people.
Yeah, man. You back to work this week? How's that?
At office.
Okay, there we go. I couldn't see that because of this big camera that's sitting in front of me, but I see it now. Yeah, Chris, man, we're right in the thick of it. Last week was an interesting week. As it always is in the D2 world. Let's just kind of get started. We'll look at the B to A list first. The list you don't want to be on, at least on one end of it. 1 week after winning their Super Bowl, after beating Winston-Salem State, Shaw University, I don't know where I got that notes. Shaw University came home to homecoming. Well, they went over to Durham County Stadium and they scored not a 1 point. 52-0. Their homecoming was their home going, and Johnson C. Smith utterly destroyed the Bears. We're talking about a 52-point margin, 9 sacks, and -7 rushing yards. Total domination, Chris. Your thoughts here?
Well, inexperience showed up at the wrong time for Shaw. You got, 1 week you got Winston-Salem State that can be very hot and cold, but you got a JCSU team that's just determined not to have what happened to them last year happen this year. And the way that they just sort of shut down the run game. And they forced a young passer to, pass the ball. They took away where Shaw felt comfortable in running the ball and sort of controlling the clock in that way. And on the flip side, they had the tools and the weapons, and they used them to take advantage of Shaw's secondary in particular. When you talk about Brian Lane and Biggie Proctor, Biggie Proctor, former St. Aug wide receiver, he played in several games against Shaw, so that's always a game that I'm sure he's going to get up for. But what they were able to do as a tandem at wide receiver really put a lot of pressure on that Shaw defense to the point where it broke, and it didn't take very long. So, here, what do you really say? It was brutal. It was a certified B to A.
Yeah, definitive B to A. Somebody's beating the brown off the Bears B to A. We'll see. Sounds good right now, but we'll see. All right, let's go over. Let's go over to one that we pretty much knew was going to be a B to A. Virginia Union, who only put up 66 on Lincoln. Only 66.
That was close. I said 70.
Yeah. Let's see. Curtis Allen, smooth 208, 3 touchdowns. RJ Rosales, 5 total TDs. Okay. 40, solid, just a solid 40, 45 point margin of victory. Could have been worse. Let's see. All right. So, we'll hear a little bit more about Virginia Union coming up shortly. And then a B to A that we didn't know was going to be a B to A, but there's nothing that beats a homecoming B to A. Beat the blue off of them. Winston-Salem State, 42-10 over the Blue Bears after losing to the plain old Bears the week before. And as we see, Chris, the running game was cooking, much to the happiness of one Robert Massey.
Yeah, so I went to go get my media pass on Friday, right? And one of the coaches came to me and said, "Man, stop telling people that we can't run the ball. We can run the ball." And they ran it. I mean, when you had Timothy Ruff and Jaquan Kelly, Kelly ran for 139 yards. Ruff ran for 135 yards. I can't remember the last time that Winston had two running backs run for over 100 yards apiece in a game. And then, Dalen Lee doing Dalen Lee things. I mean, he had over 200 yards of passing himself. So, Winston ended up with over 500 yards of offense, if I remember this correctly. They got up early. You kind of wondered, could Livingstone, finally get on the board because Winston was prone to giving up, leads, aka Shaw. 14 wasn't safe. But, other than that 3 points that Jason Zapata got kicking the field goal, like that you see right there, Livingstone just had a lot of trouble moving the ball and especially sustaining drives on fourth down. So, certainly kudos to, what Winston was able to do. It feels like they're in the role of spoiler right now, especially with their schedule. Livingstone certainly has that role as well. Given that rivalry game, commemorative classic at the end of the regular season. So, if you're Livingstone, certainly not going to be happy with this game, especially giving up that much in rushing yards. I was just, I thought that they were going to be able to slow down and really give Winston some fits in the running game, and they didn't. I was really, really surprised by that. So,
yeah, this is one you could have hit the gravel lot by the third quarter.
I did. I did. I mean,
yeah. So, all right. So that's 2 in a row against Livingstone. So good for them. All right. Beat the tobacco out of WSSU. That not only is it corny, that's inaccurate. They just held the ball. And we will talk for sure about, of course, one Curtis Allen in just a moment. Let us move on to the other end of the spectrum. Everybody knows almost doesn't count.
No.
All right, there we go. Okay, making sure we don't get that straight. All right, Virginia State. We talked about this last week, Chris. What ECSU will we get and what Virginia State will we get? And it just so happens that Virginia State did not have an offensive explosion, but they did enough to beat Elizabeth City State 24-20. We also had in the SIAC, Miles finally got up off the mat, and Clark Atlanta and that slow-working rat poison, 27-20 Miles over CAU. And then we had Benedict 31, Edward Waters 27. Edward Waters early in the year, they were so high that everybody in the SIAC thinks they should be nationally ranked and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, you start seeing them, flirt with a loss to Morehouse. They've lost a couple in a row and also a really good Benedict team. Your thoughts on any of these games? As we got a lot of that talk already on the SIAC sit down with Sly and Jamie. So, guys, go watch that for sure after this. And please go ahead and hit that like button as well. But Chris, your thoughts on any of those games?
Well, Virginia State is a second half. It's not a second half team. They do a lot of their damage in the first half, and then it basically is hold on for dear life as you try to land the plane into the W column. But fortunate for them that ECSU does not know how to close out games. And it's the third game in a row losing by a touchdown or less, or not in a row, but this season they have lost a game by a touchdown or less. And nobody scored in the fourth quarter. Like, if you walked away from this game in the third quarter, 24-20, that was it. And so, it's
boring.
Yeah, well, I just think that, like, if you're VSU, you got a lot of you still got some youth there. They don't have that killer instinct right now. And if you're ECSU, you got to feel like, man, just another one kind of slipped through the cracks on this one when they had their opportunities. Great for Miles. Very young team, got a lot of injuries to get their win. So kudos to them. And man, I think, Jamie and Sly, if you watched their show, I watched it before this one, and it was a really good recap of Benedict and Edward Waters. I just felt like, Benedict was going to have enough defense to slow down Edward Waters, and that's exactly kind of what happened there. And then, kudos to Benedict's offense. I mean, they really had to step up in this game, and they did so. And like I said, that recap that Sly and Jamie did was really good. I encourage you to really tune in to that. I won't go over that. It's still their thunder. I think it just sets up a really, really great showdown this week for Benedict.
Well, Sly, I'm not sipping Kool-Aid, and definitely not Morehouse Kool-Aid. But congrats to them. They got 3 wins in a row. Good for them. Good for them. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on to some of the spotlight players from last week. We had John Terrius Thomas of Edward Waters, 226 yards rushing. Curtis Allen, again, 208, 3 touchdowns, light work. Michael Robinson for Bowie State, 100. Oh, we'll talk about that. Almost doesn't count there, too. I guess we'll talk about that, too, since people want to keep clipping us.
Let's see. The show, though.
281, 3 touchdowns for Kelvin Durham and Johnson C. Smith. Lane and Proctor combined for 252 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Lane and Proctor, that sounds like a law firm. Daniel Williams from WSSU had 11 tackles in the win. And the Fort Valley State defense, they did what they needed to do against Savannah State. Let's talk about that other almost doesn't count. In the battle for the real BSU, Bowie State, by the skin of its teeth, remains the real BSU in CIAA football. Chris, this was a game that Bowie State finally found a pulse, as Clarence loves to pull out. Yes, Bluefield State's defense is straight trash. They are give up 40 points a game, and Bowie State, their offense has been straight trash, and they have they found a way to get 42 points. They were up 35-10, I believe, before Bluefield State almost found a way to come back. A very scrappy team. They're never going to get out of the game. I mean, they've been down whatever they got beat by Wingate, so they've seen worse. Yeah. Any thoughts on that game? Chris, is there any meaning of it, or just the battle of 2 teams scraping for wins?
Well, I think there's a lot more to think about here because, we're used to seeing Bluefield kind of getting blown out, and against, like, I would say, like, the lower tier of the conference, of which, yes, Bowie is in the lower tier right now. They're competitive. I mean, they have a passing game. They can't run the ball, but Bryce Kuntz, again, passing for like well over 300 yards. This time it was Julian Crawley who caught 126 receiving yards. And I mean, they have an offense that can do some things. But the one thing that Bowie does really well is run the ball. And the one thing that Bluefield's defense doesn't do is they don't stop the run. And so you put those two things together, and that's exactly what happened. You know, Michael Robinson for Bowie was the conference player of the week from the running back position. You know, that's been normally reserved for Curtis Allen. But, I mean, what he was able to do this week, you know, Bluefield makes a lot of running backs look really good, and Mike is good. He's good, but he really shined and took advantage of that, you know, very pronounced weakness that Bluefield has. And so I just think overall, I think that just tells you kind of where they are. Bluefield trending up, you know, in terms of they're much more competitive in the conference and in year two of Devon Morgan. Whereas Bowie isn't the Bowie that we know, you know, even, you know, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. They're just scraping by right now. And, you know, does that translate into any changes in the offseason is yet to be seen. But, yeah, it's a struggle right now. Both teams are just going in opposite directions in general. But, you know, again, kudos to Bowie. I thought Bluefield was going to win this game. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout. I thought it was going to be really close if they're going to do it. They got close, but not close enough, and almost doesn't count.
Almost does not count. And yes, Chris Tucker, you know, hey, first off, if that's any indication on Winston, they're 4-4, average. And yes, they've been trashed too at times as well. But hey, trash, you know, when you're not performing well, you're not performing well. It is what it is. All right. So let us now turn our attention to, we are now in week 8 officially, which means that there are 3 more weeks until the CIAA and the SIAC will have their championship games. Of course, the SIAC has a unique setup. Maybe we'll touch on that in just a second. But we are close to, is it this week or next week that the regional rankings come out? Because, yeah, where are we at with that?
This week. So, but the rankings are like they're in alphabetical order. So, you're not going to really be able to read too much into it. Yeah, I think it's also important to remember when it comes to the playoffs that there are automatic qualifiers this year, and the playoffs expanded to 32 teams, so there is no bye in the first round. You know, both conferences have the ability to put multiple teams in the playoffs because they're now in different super regions. CIAA went back to Super Region 1, and SIAC remains in Super Region 2. And when you look at Benedict, Albany, Kentucky State, you know, those are teams that certainly have a potential to get into the playoffs. You know, so you know, and then on CIAA side, you really got 3 teams right now. Fayetteville State and Johnson C. Smith and VUU. And so yeah, I mean, it's a good spot for both conferences to be in right now, with quite a bit still to play out. But you know, it's fun to think about.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Yeah, so again, folks are in different super regions now. So this has shifted quite a bit. The CIAA has been bounced around a little bit, but now they're in Super Region 1, and so. We don't have CIAA and SIAC teams competing against each other in terms of that this year, which is a good thing, I think, for both conferences. Would you say, Chris? I know I've seen Inkblot, who does a lot of projecting, and he's got right now, you know, potentially 3 teams in each conference right now there. Obviously, you know, some teams are going to play each other, but you know, your thoughts there with. How many HBCU teams at this point? Again, We know that nothing is. Set in stone at this point. Last year, it looked like Johnson C. Smith was headed for potentially a number 1 seed, and well, then they turned back into Johnson C. Smith. But it's a new year, so we'll see. But what does your gut tell you right now?
I think it's going to be 2 teams per conference. That's what I think. When you look at the Northeast 10 in Super Region 1, that's the conference that Kentucky State played Franklin Pierce from. Northeast 10 probably only going to get the automatic qualifier, and that's it. The PSAC, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, kind of beating up on each other right now. So that one's sort of a TBD, but they've historically gotten 3 or even 4 teams in. And then the Mountain East is, they kind of beating up on each other too right now. And it was a pretty big upset that Frostburg was able to beat Charleston. And I think that could boost their resume to get 2 teams in. So really interesting in Super Region 1. I mean, if you're looking at Super Region 2, you're kind of paying attention to, Gulf South is going to have, West Florida playing really well. West Alabama and Delta State kind of duking it out. They actually play this weekend. And those are 2, potentially 3 teams there. The Conference Carolinas is going to have, it'll be, either USC Pembroke or it's going to be North Greenville. They just played this past weekend and North Greenville won. And so, but they have a championship game. So, there's likely a rubber match there between those 2 teams. And then the South Atlantic. And the South Atlantic is like, oh my gosh, it's like very unpredictable right now. They got several teams that look really, really good, but they're beating up on each other right now. I mean, you're looking at Newberry, Wingate, Catawba, Emory and Henry. I mean, they're still just in this round robin format, and I believe they have a championship game this year too. So, a lot to figure out. The last 3 weeks of the season is going to be so pivotal right now. And the other nice thing, and I'm just going to drop this nugget really quick because I was looking at this before the show started. But the SIAC has that Week 11 matchup with Conference Carolinas to help out. And 2, the CIAA, maybe they're listening to the show, or maybe they've been listening over the years or something, because they did release a strategic plan for the next 5 years. And one of that is trying to enhance their postseason resumes. So I don't know if that has something to do with football or not, but hey, if it does, that could be Week 11. So
you've waited a long time for that.
It's been years, but somebody's listening, I think.
Hey, well, listen, sometimes, you got to pound the table a little bit. And, as a Ram, I damn sure don't mind doing that. I actually enjoy it. So, yeah, for sure. So good stuff there. Let's, as we continue to move forward, we got a big week this week. Let's see. So, yeah, we got we got time. We're ready to get on time, so I'll go to this. So, listen, you guys are in your greatest period ever of CIAA football, sustained success, and you have 1 championship to show for it. Congratulations. And we're in our worst. We'll be back. We'll be better. Will it ever be this good for you again? Probably not. All right, next. So do we have any if we're talking about predicted B to A's, and I didn't really get a chance to do this ahead of time, doing some daddy duties. So let's see. Do we see any potential B to A's? Do we even see Livingstone VUL as a potential B to A? Chris?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be really no, it's not a B to A though. I think Livingstone's going to win. I don't think it's a B to A though. No, I don't think so.
Okay. What about Virginia State and Bluefield State? It's homecoming. Is this a sneaky good matchup potentially?
No,
I mean,
so like Bluefield has the ability to, sort of attack what VSU can do on the defensive side of the ball because they don't run the ball. So, and we know that VSU has always been this year been susceptible to the pass. But I think the problem is that when you look at how VSU sort of stacks up on the offensive side, I think that they got plenty of horsepower to attack the run defense of Bluefield. When you think about like this past week, like Rejon Hammond had over 100 yards rushing. The leading rusher for VSU is not a running back; it's RJ Matthews. So you put that combo together, that's a very potent matchup to also do what everybody else has done against Bluefield. So I think there could be quite a bit of points in this game. I don't think it's going to be a B-A though.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. So we got that one. Over in the SIAC.
But wait. There is one in the CIAA that is one though.
Okay.
And that's going to be.
We're gonna get to that later. Is that already?
I think we're gonna get to that later though. I think we're gonna get to that later.
Okay, I got you. So yeah, well, since Kobe went ahead and dropped it in the since he went ahead and dropped it in the chat, Mr. VUU over there. We're going to let's talk about Virginia Union versus Bowie State. Chris, again, I know you're on several of these calls, and I go to some, and I get to calls when I can. So I know you were on the Virginia Union call. They've got Bowie State this weekend. Once upon a time, kids, this was a matchup that Bowie State actually had the upper hand in. That time has passed, but hey, you had a chance to ask Dr. Alvin Parker about this game. And here is what he had to say.
They have two quarterbacks that they feel good about playing. They have a running back that they really feel good about, handing the ball to. They have a couple receivers that they really feel good about throwing it to. Last week up there at Bluefield, they put up quite a few points. And they've been in pretty much every game they've played, they're good ball clubs here. It's hard for me to kind of get it out of my head. The first couple of years I was here, 18, 19, 21, that was the one we could not get over. We couldn't beat Bowie. So when you look at it from that standpoint, they're still Bowie. So no matter what the record might say or anything else, I think they're a good ball club. And I think that's going to kind of be the case from here on out. With everybody that we play. We're going to get everybody's best. So we have to be at our best every week.
All right, appreciate it. Let's see, Coach.
Thanks.
Well, two people in this. Two people still remember this that way. Dr. Parker and Clarence. They both remember it that way. But Chris, your thoughts on this game? Do you think this is a potential B to A? Or do you think there's a chance that Bowie could rise up and catch them slipping?
No, this is not a catch up and slip type of deal. Well, I mean, what we've seen the last couple of games is, and Dr. Parker kind of alluded to this earlier in his press conference, was we're basically in that point of the schedule where it's the traditional North and South teams playing each other.
Right.
And the North, those coaches and players have gone up against each other and they understand their tendencies and things like that. So, when you see, Lincoln putting up 21 points in the first half, or you see Elizabeth City putting up 18 points in a 24-18 game in the first half, that's a lot of familiarity between the schools and the coaching staff. But what VUU does in the second half, they just adjust and they sort of clamp down. And those 18 points that ECSU scored, that's all they got. Those 21 points that Lincoln scored, that's all they got. And Bowie doesn't have a passing game that can keep a team honest here. I think it's serviceable. With Kevin Taylor and Antoine Banks and Challenger Valentine, all name team. Those guys, but it's not consistent enough. And VUU has a good defensive line that can slow down that running game. So, I don't see it. I do not see it. Will Bowie remember last year and want revenge? I'm sure they want revenge, but they're not going to get it.
I want goes down the list. I remember goes down the list. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let us tip our eyes over to the SIAC. Again, remember, we have a show that is totally dedicated to the SIAC. Sly and Jamie do a great job. So please, go ahead and support them on our D2 Wednesdays. And our show, the Teddy Keaton Show, is up this week. It's up already. So when this one is over with, go over there and make sure you guys are downloaded, have subscribed to our podcast, which, you'll be able to hear all of these again if the eye candy here is just too much for you. All right. So we have got Edward Waters versus Clark Atlanta. Both of these programs are desperately in need of a win. Obviously, we got a chance to see that, Edward Waters, they had their one shining moment against Virginia Union, and then they just kind of been trending back on down. Clark Atlanta, again, a program that really had a lot of momentum, and in the first game of the year, they almost beat Valdosta State. But you know what, Chris? You know what almost does?
It don't count.
It does not count. And it does not count. And Clark Atlanta, Team Rat Poison has been fighting through it, but it's homecoming in the AUC. They had Spellhouse last week. Who do you think Edward Waters gets back onto this, or how many points is homecoming really worth?
Most teams this year have been winning homecoming. There's just not been a lot of spoilers. I mean, you did have Shaw that loss. I kind of going to step a little bit into the FCS ranks, and I'm thinking about what happened with Southern and Prairie View, and the commentary behind that one was absolutely hilarious.
Send our boy Graves on down the road.
Yeah, well, and Tremaine said, they don't need to schedule them for homecoming anymore. So, and Edward Waters used to be that homecoming opponent, right? I mean, they're not anymore. You don't schedule Johnson C. Smith for homecoming. You don't schedule Edward Waters for homecoming. You just don't. And so people don't schedule even Winston-Salem State for homecoming because, that's another big draw for teams, even when they're down. And so this is just not going to be a pretty game. Not when, John Terry Thomas just gave, he just rushed it over 220 yards, and now he's going up against a squad that's giving up 4.7 yards a rush. Clark is a defense's optional kind of team, and they're young now. This is just not happy homecoming, right? Maybe you don't go to the game. Maybe you donate your game ticket, or maybe you pour yourself a little something extra strong, and you leave at halftime or something. I don't know, but this is going to be. I don't think this is going to be pretty at all. I think it's going to be pretty ugly. Hey, you're on mute, Steven.
Fayetteville State. Thanks, Chris. Fayetteville State is back after being in the stable for a week. They are back, taking on the plain old Bears of Shaw, and who are still picking up Golden Bull dust off of Durham County Stadium. But bye weeks have been interesting in the CIAA. Teams haven't necessarily done great after them. I mean, even if you look at Virginia Union's game when they lost against Edward Waters, that was off of a bye. And last year, off of a bye, a couple other teams caught losses as well. Is this a potential B to A candidate?
Yeah. Well, but I think it's less so because, I mean, if you get like the Damari Daniels that can pass for like 150 to 200 yards, then yes. I would say that after Virginia Union, when they need to do it, FSU is probably the most innovative offense in the conference. And they're like, if you go out into the woods and you need to survive by any means necessary, that's what Fayetteville State is to me. They're so resourceful. They put players in the right spots that you just don't know if you're the opponent. Like, you may not know what they have drawn up and dialed up. And they also like to play bully ball. And so I think that FSU is going to win this game. I think so. Do they run up the score? Maybe not. I think that they're definitely going to give a lot of fits, though. I think that their defensive line is really good, and it's going to pose some problems to Shaw. And they have the blueprint from JCSU from a week ago. They can follow a lot of that blueprint, especially on defense. So, yeah. FSU doesn't run up scores. Wait, what? They scored 51 points this year against Elizabeth City.
Exactly, Chris. I'm glad.
If that ain't a run up, I don't know what is.
Exactly. Man, please. If they can, they will. Let's see. Let's go over, and this is the big one. This is what a lot of people are talking about. This is what a lot of people were talking about. And again, Sly and Jamie did a really great job breaking that one down. Benedict versus Albany State. SIAC game of the week for sure, maybe the year. Your thoughts on this game, Chris?
I was a little distracted when I was tuning in before the show to listen to Jamie and Sly. But I think my question is like Isaiah Knowles out for the season or something? Because that question I don't know. If he were playing in this game, I would feel really good about like picking Albany. I think he's the X factor, but if he's not in this game, I mean, you're basically throwing a younger quarterback to the Wolves, or to the Tigers, I should say. When you look at a Darius Ocean on the other side of the ball, I mean, he can do a lot of different things. I mean, he's really good about sort of keeping things moving when he's on. And I like, like Albany, when they're clicking, like they're a complete team, right? They have the ability to run the ball with Tiant Weiss. They have the ability to pass the ball and get it to multiple receivers. But it just feels like it's a potential low-scoring game. I mean, you only scored 7 points against a wounded Tuskegee team, right? I mean, you're leaning on your defense here. That's a problem for me. I like Benedict in this game. I know there's a lot of focus on Benedict is undefeated, and they should be higher in like the HBCU polls rather than like VUU. This is the game to sort of prove that, because this is what, like, their last really big hurdle for until the championship game. Here you are. It's a big game. But I think Benedict will prevail. They seem to win by many different ways.
That's not a B-to-A alert, by the way. That ticker was just ticking. But hey, if it does happen to be a B-to-A, clip that. All right, so and let's finish up looking at this week with a game, that we'll have eyes on another CIAA contender. As we talked about earlier, Winston-Salem State, their hopes have busted, but they do get a chance to still play spoiler. But they have to go on the road this year. Their final two games are at Johnson C. Smith and Fayetteville State. And so this is an interesting game for a lot of reasons, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But we'll hear from head coach Maurice Flowers of Johnson C. Smith University about this matchup.
Winston-Salem State, they want to beat Johnson C. Smith. This is a rivalry game. Winston and Johnson C. Smith, part of the reason it's a big rivalry is because of the distance, and the biggest alumni chapter for Winston-Salem State is in Charlotte. And there's now that we've beat them 2 years in a row for the first time, and I want to say I think it was since 75, 76 that we had beat them 2 times in a row. So we know they're going to come hungry. And also their head coach, a very good friend of mine, Robert Massey, he's a Charlottean, went to Garinger High School. We've got our work cut out for us. Coach Tripp's going to have him ready. This is what we call, this is Coach Tripp's week where he leads the team. He does a lot of the head coaching duties this week, with this being his alma mater, and knowing that, might be one person on our staff that wants to beat Winston more than me, and that's Coach Tripp. Winston.
Yeah. So there you have it, Coach Maurice Flowers, who I believe is 2-1 against WSSU. He may have a chance, depending on how long he stays there, to become the first head coach to have a winning record against WSSU since the Gerald Ford administration. So, but we'll have to see. Chris, your thoughts on this game here? As again, Johnson C. Smith, they seem to be on a roll again. Obviously, we saw what they did to Shaw. WSSU is going to take that trip down 52 and shortly on 85 and head over to its Beatty's Ford campus. And, your thoughts on this game?
Well, JCSU has the ability to put teams in some uncomfortable situations. And as much as we've already talked about Kelvin Durham and the wide receivers, I think sort of like the underrated piece or the unsung hero is Bobby T. Smith, running back, and he can help extend drives for the Golden Bulls. And, Coach Flowers talked about how they needed to get a little healthier, and they've sort of done so over the last couple of weeks in particular, and that's going to help them, particularly on defense. Winston's problem is that they don't start fast in a lot of cases. In the big games, they don't start fast. They didn't start fast against a VUU in particular, and that really hurt them. It wasn't that they couldn't put up points. It's just that they dug themselves a hole, and they run the risk of doing that in this game as well. If they can repeat what they did against Livingstone in the run game, then they certainly going to have a shot for the upset. I don't have them winning this game. I think the question is, can they finish the season at 500? And they're looking at 2 teams in Fayetteville State that is undefeated in conference play, and JCSU, who has a lot to play for right now because, they need to not only win this game, but they need to beat Fayetteville State just to have the opportunity to go to the championship game. So Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it. Mm-mm. No.
Yeah, Chris, I will have to echo that with you.
What?
No, I mean on the road, the Rams. I mean, they lost to Shaw.
Not a great road team. I mean, they're really not. I mean, even though it's not that far.
Nearly let Bowie State beat them on the road. I mean, they did beat Mars Hill on the road, but I don't know. It's gonna be a challenge. So and Coach Tripp, who is a Ram, his defense is playing lights out. Again, he may consider this a job interview for him. But at any case, I think the Rams are going to have to prove that they can go out on the road and win. I mean, I think they, I know that Coach Massey and his future have been very much talked about and debated for. And I know that, for everything performance-wise, I know that Coach Massey is really close with his guys and they love him. So this is his hometown, as their coach talked about. So, maybe they'll get a chance to send him from his hometown in front of a win, but they got a step challenge. So, yeah. Extend Massey and keep whoever is the play caller at Bowie State. Yeah, and make Adam Goggins the head coach over there. All right. Chris, anything else, man? Anything else before we go? Job interview was wild, bro. Listen. No, they're job interviews. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, there's certainly some other interesting games out there. I'm always particular of the games where, teams haven't had a ton of success in the win column, but they're evenly matched. I think you kind of have that in Elizabeth City State and Lincoln this weekend. And, so I'm really curious to see how those two teams stack up. We talked about Lincoln earlier, and again, Hamas Duran, the quarterback, came back against VUU and showed that Lincoln, under the right circumstances, can put up some points. And so what can they do against Elizabeth City? That is like they are so extreme in how they perform right now. Will be very interesting. I think that's going to be a really good game, just to watch, just to see how two teams, sort of fight it out in an evenly matched game. So really looking forward to that. And I just want to say too, really excited for Kentucky State and what they've been able to do as well. And I think I saw earlier where was it Central State lost to NAIA team. Yeah. A moment of silence. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's just hard. They're on hard times right now. So,
woo, man, listen. So,
I just love the comments. How like a lot of the comments online talking about how the SIAC is the top to bottom a better conference. I don't know if I agree with that top to bottom at this point. I think the SIAC has a range that's like a lot larger than the CIAA. The lows are pretty low and the highs are pretty high. And I think that's kind of where the CIAA was a couple of years ago. And so, I'm really curious to see, at that very top of the conference, how that sort of plays out, and can those top teams live with prosperity? And so far they are. That's what I'm really curious about. I think in the CIAA, you're really down to three teams, and then the others are sort of fighting for a winning season or trying to go into the off season with some momentum. I mean, but it's been pretty hard for Lincoln, pretty hard for Elizabeth City, pretty hard for Bowie, and then you got that middle piece that trying to get to 500 right now. So really going to be really, really interesting to see how all this sort of sorts itself out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Chris, it's for sure it's going to be something to watch. So we appreciate everybody that has tuned in and watched this as we are going to close down this episode on season 3 of the HBCU Game Day D2 football show. Thanks to everybody who dropped in with a message. I see Clarence gave us his customary Bulldogs with the upset. You gonna tell us how many you're gonna beat them by, Clarence? Yeah, and I'm sure you'll go back and clip whatever we said. But yeah, let's see. So the SIAC and CIAA champion are gonna play each other, but it'll be at the beginning of the season. So they'll probably have new coaches and a whole new team. That's just how that's gonna work out pretty much every year. So we'll see. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. For K-Ferg, this is SJG, and we will see you next time in D2 Football Land.